moving on to Tom. Wow. Have the Knicks ever been this early in our preview? No, they haven't.
Since we've started, so it's pretty amazing. I'm still surprised.
Go ahead, Tom. Take it away. Your first team. Normally they're like your last team.
I know. Usually I end with my Knicks, and it's a 25 minutes rant. Right, let's just go through the roster. So players out: Reggie Bullock, he went to the Mavs. Elfrid Payton, yes, Suns, finally. We lost Theo Pinson and Frankie Smokes. Finally out.
Where's he going?
Wow.
I know. He went to the Mavs. Signed a 1 or 2 year deal. I can't remember.
I don't know any good
amazing.
French players either.
What?
I don't know any good French players.
You don't. Good.
Go back. Jesus Christ.
It's all right. It's
like, I'm just gonna ignore the top one, and then after that, nothing.
And that guy that won a couple of championships with Spurs.
It's like,
he's not a player anymore. He only plays women now.
Oh.
Okay.
Paul Pierce.
Hey.
Wait, it's all going wrong. Hang on.
Knicks.
So Frank's gone. Finally,
biggest franchise.
We can breathe. I know there's a lot of Knicks fans that are crying still. They're crying themselves to sleep, but I'm not. I'm quite happy with that. Players in, drafted Grimes, which looks like a very interesting player. McBride, we don't care. But then most importantly, we got Kemba Walker, finally a good point guard in there. And Fournier from the Celtics. And Walker came from the Thunder.
Don't know any good French players.
I know, right? And then resigned Derrick Rose, Alec Burks, Noel, and Gibson, but that's just bench.
Taj.
Yeah, he's still there.
He's signed.
37, I think. So, yeah, 36, 37.
Ooh.
Tim's right arm. Tibbs' right arm.
Tim's right. Yeah, that's why it's there. It's like the whatever. X Factor, if you will. Well, the X Factor to me is what sort of version of Kemba Walker are we getting? Is he going to be the healthy one? Is he going to be able to, keep his knees in check? And then the traditional Knicks pressure. The guy is from New York, so it's is that going to be a good thing? Is that going to be a positive on him? Is that going to be adding too much pressure on him? I don't know. I will see. So it mostly depends on how he'll perform. And then the second X factor to me is the defense, if they can keep it up. Because last year they were the 4th best defense. At some point they were the best, but they were lacking in terms of creativity on offense. So maybe with Kemba and Fournier that can be solved. I don't know. We'll see how they go. Prediction is them dropping to 6, maybe, even though they got some talented players in. But again, depends on how healthy. And then also because the teams ahead of them, you'll still have the Sixers, you'll still have the Nets, obviously the Bucks, and the Hawks. I think are better.
Some new player and some new teams coming on. Like the Heat, so it's going to be there. The Celtics. And
the Heat, I think that the Heat's going to be up there. The Celtics, I don't buy into the Celtics this year, but you never know though. They can have a great season. So 6, I think 6, around 6, that'd be a good result.
Yeah.
I don't see them missing the playoffs, but again, that's to me vastly depending on how Kemba does. I think.
Yep, I would agree.
Safe.
The big thing for me is like they built so much on that sort of teamwork and defense. Chucking in Kemba is a bit of a wild one to throw in there.
But they've not really lost anyone that was contributing. Do you know what I mean? Like they added to it. So, and I understand he's taking minutes away from somebody else that can defend. But it does and it doesn't in a way. Well, that's what my question is. Defense, is that going to be impacted or not?
And it was the lack of offense that let them down in the playoffs, right? They lost to a lower seed, and their main scorer Randall wasn't able to replicate what he'd done during the regular season. Exactly. So I think that will be also an interesting factor, along with RJ Barrett's progress.
Mm-hmm. True.
But okay, still has them in the playoffs. Couldn't. So the Hawks fly in. Michael Downey with the Hawks.
Indeed. Let's go.
I'll wait to hear what you've got to say.
Please, fresh
brand new information. Go on.
All right, yeah. So they kept it pretty steady, I thought, like in terms of their core guys. People leaving, it was Chris Dunn, and then what was his name? Bruno Fernandez. Chris Dunn, one. Bruno Fernando. Thank you, David. The guys coming in, we had Delon Wright, Gorgie Jen, Jalil Okafor, and Timothy Luwawu-Cabarro.
Yeah.
Hopefully didn't butcher that name.
Nope.
So you can see by the guys that are coming in, it's like solid, sort of reliable guys, but nobody that's going to play like major minutes by anybody's sort of standards. So I've got the starting five very similar to how they finished up last year. Clint Capella, John Collins, Bogdanovic. Is it the right one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Small Bogdanovic.
And Trae Young. Oh God, Trae Young. I think the X factors for them is there's been the rule switch up around sort of getting fouls and contact and things. Seeing how that impacts Trae Young, because he like apparently he is the example, him and Harden are the examples they've been using to show the refs, like look out for this.
Yeah.
So it kind of concerns me a little bit how it would impact his game, because he's massive for them. He sort of leads that offense massively. The other thing is they've still got like Cam Reddish developing. He didn't really feature in the playoffs, like hardly at all, to be honest with you. But he's super young, and he could really become quite a good piece if he develops. But they're just building depth with the guys that have come in. It's just more depth and more sort of solid guys, as I was saying. So that's what I've got. I think they're going to be solid playoffs. I think I've got about 10 teams that are finishing around 5th, to be honest. They're one of them. Like we've been saying the whole time, the East is getting stronger. They could slip into the play-in, but I think that they're better than the Knicks. So's Tom.
Oh yeah, of course they are.
And I think it's guys like the Heat and how they sort of step up that could be a problem. But I kind of have the Hawks, Heat, Celtics as kind of one group. I think one of those teams is going to end up in the play-in accidentally. Right?
Yeah, too many spots for too few teams.
Yeah.
Philly as well. Philly.
They're the top of that shit show. Yeah, really interesting team. Again, I think their depth is such an asset. Nate McMillan came in and really steadied the ship and sent them where they need to go, and then they just rode the high of Trae Young's play in the playoffs. Yeah, be interesting to see how they pan out, and also how the situation with John Collins works itself out as well. I think he showed that he's a very valuable player. He wasn't a playoff liability on defense or anything like that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how far they go. He could be one of those, like he struck me as like one of those like energy guys that just sticks around on like contenders for like a long time, just because when it comes down to like crunch time, he can lift a team, sort of thing, you know.
I think he's more talented than that. I always link energy guys to like rebounding, grabbing loose balls and things like that. He can shoot, and he's athletic as all hell. So that double drag screen, he also becomes a pop threat as well as a lob threat off the back of that.
he's an ideal like sort of partnership guy with Trae Young for sure.
Yeah. Offensively, yeah. All right. Who could possibly be next? I think it's the Miami Heat.
Oh, who's got that one?
I think it's me.
Wow.
So Tom,
check the notes.
Hit the transitions, Tom. We're gonna go into the Heat. So you can just have fire just raising above my chin. Not that I feel like I'm under any pressure or anything. So I'll restart the timer. Notable ins. They managed to land Kyle Lowry. They also managed to land PJ Tucker. So they brought in some veterans. And NBA champion Markieff Morris. They also still have Victor Oladipo on the roster. And I think they only lost, by the looks of things, James Johnson. But again, he wasn't a huge piece. They just lost a little bit of their wing depth. But they managed to keep hold of all of their big assets, which was important. They also have Dwayne Dedman, who I'm not sure was with them last year, stretch as another stretch for 5, to pair with Bam Adebayo. That's who they lost, their centers. So they've brought in 2 big championship caliber veterans in Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker, winners of the last 2 of the last 3 championships. They also lost Dragic. And I think that added depth is going to help them a lot. I think they were one of those teams that were severely hurt by COVID. And I think they'll be much better this season. When Jimmy Butler was able to stay on the court, they were much better as a team. And he'll take them as far as he can. I think in terms of where they finish, it's probably going to be, as Mike said, in that sort of solid playoff range, but not everyone can be in there. But I trust that with the veteran roster, that they'll be able to sneak into one of those 4 to 6 spots. Yeah, I think that's it. X factor is probably health, but then also the play of Tyler Hero and potentially Victor Oladipo. If he can return to anything like himself, then they go from being like a really solid team to a team that can actually do some serious things in the playoffs with multiple weapons. And then also Tyler Hero's development. We saw him. He was excellent in the bubble a year ago. I can't believe that was still just a year ago. And yeah, depends on what he can do in terms of development.
Yeah, the 2 finalists last year, they suffered greatly of COVID. Well, the bubble, and then going all the way until the end of the bubble, and then having no preseason, nothing in between, and then jumping back in the new season. Then they've suffered greatly, actually. I think more than the Lakers almost. But now I'm really curious to see what they'll have doing this season because of having more rest and having a roster that Loki. I think Loki they've done a really good, in terms of transactions and who they brought in. It's like almost like a stealthy reinforcement they did. It's like nobody paid attention to what the Heat's done because of all the potential of the transfers that we've seen, trades and stuff. And they brought in some players. It was very clever what they've done. Very, very clever. So I think Ben Simmons was taking all the sunlight, all the lights were on Ben Simmons the entire trade season, and nobody looked at what the Heat's done. So yeah, they could be up there.